let's go ahead and open with a word of prayer. Dear most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We invite you to be part of this Zoom call. We invite you to work through us, speak through us. We invite you to help us to sink into your word, sink into you, sink into your Son and your Holy Spirit. Lord, we are trying. We are gathered here with the purpose of trying to share your word, share your love, share your grace with others who may not know you, or others who might find themselves angry with you. And so we just ask that you be with us today. And as we go forward and as we contemplate some possibly new things or things that might not be very clear just yet. So we thank you. We're grateful. And in your Son's most precious name we pray. Amen. All right. So good to be with y'all today. I apologize. I look like I haven't had a whole lot of sleep or like I've been crying a lot, and that's not the case. I had eye surgery, unexpected eye surgery last week. And so forgive my appearance. But I'm awake. I wanted you to know that I'm awake. I look like I haven't had sleep, but I'm awake and I'm not sad. So anyway, let's go ahead and start today with some of the work that we've been able to do over the last couple of weeks. And I'm just going to kind of popcorn. I'm going to let you just speak and share as you would like. And if you'll just be sure and turn up your volume so that if it works out that you're talking over someone, you'll be able to hear that and be able to self-correct there. So anyway, let's talk about so last cohort we talked about a people first concept with our social media and with our video and with our complete online presence. And I received emails from a few of you that, number one, you were really excited about how your perspective had shifted a little bit and you couldn't wait to be able to put this into practice. And then I also heard from a few of you that had put this into practice and that you were pleased with the results. And so, and a lot of times this is not just an automatic overnight one post is going to do it kind of thing, or one video is going to do it. But I would love to hear from some of you, and I know everyone else would too, to hear how your people first thinking has worked for you over the last 2 weeks. Anyone? Go ahead, Ellis. Pastor Ellis, I apologize. Welcome.
Last week, some of my members were out vacationing, and the financier and Sunday school superintendent, he was out due to illness or whatever. But the ones that were here, I informed them about the class and an endeavor that I'm encountering with a third generation nephew. And I was speaking to Brother Charlie about it, the concerns, and letting him know that I need the entire brotherhood and the church to be praying with me and for me. And he was informing me that he and the rest of the members would be with me all the way. And I informed them about this class, Intentional Ministry, and still I started filling out the church conference forms also. And I let them know we're in it together. I cannot do it by myself. We're all in it together. And it was so comforting for him to say, I'll be with you. We will be with you every step of the way. That was really encouraging to me.
That I am so glad you shared that, and you could not have set up today's cohort any better. than that right there, because when Reverend Dr. Michelle Morris joins us shortly, she is going to be talking about how we cannot do this by ourselves. This is not a one-person job. We cannot do this. Even if we are the communicator, if that is our job, we still cannot do this by ourselves, nor should we. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing that word with us, Reverend Ellis. Appreciate that so much. I know that someone had sent me an email saying that they were going to be sharing more photos this week, that they were going to try a literal people first concept of sharing more photographs of people within their church on their Facebook page. Did anybody send me that email that is in this group today? Okay. Oh, yes,
Let
Pastor.
me get my sound. Can
Yes,
you hear me?
we can.
I didn't hear everything. I went to close the door. You
That's
were asking for
okay.
photographs from what?
I was saying that someone had emailed me, I guess it's been 2 weeks ago, saying that they were looking forward to, we had talked about a people first mindset, and that we were really going to try to meet, not just meet people where they are, but to actually be talking to people, and not just making a sentence and information. We're not just sharing information, but that we're actually talking
Yeah.
to
Okay.
people. And but that someone had taken it very literally and had said, I'm looking forward to my people first focus, in that we're going to start sharing more photos of people. And
Okay.
I was wondering if there are some people that are out today, and so I was wondering if it was anyone that was on this call that had sent me that email, or had considered sharing on your social media more photos of people.
Okay. Okay. That's the part I came in on, the photo part.
Yeah,
And I was thinking, well, I had a baptism Sunday, so we had photos of that, and
wonderful.
their parents, his parents that I had talked to, that part, which just comes naturally, me talking to them about stuff. But I'm concerned, I don't know whether I'm skipping ahead or not. I got that report, didn't have time to
Yes.
go through all of it that you had requested
Yeah,
somebody to send to me.
it's a big report.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing of it is, with us here, well, with me anyway, I don't know, our church situation or whatever, but I'll just put it like that. It's very fluid. We're in flux right now. So I don't know
Sure.
what who I'll have or what I will be. I will still need to learn this, especially this online stuff. But I don't know. Within the next month or so, I may be somewhere else anyway. So
Right. Well, Reverend, I'm gonna share in just a minute. I'm gonna share
mhm,
a mission insight report that I had pulled for
okay,
a church that I'm actually doing some vision work with. And
okay,
so we're gonna kind of go through just some high points of it, and talk about how we can see possibility. Let's see, hang on. How we can see possibility, even if our data might be not really looking good, if as far as growth in the community, and projected growth, and projected um, uh, diversity, that you know I hope that we can walk away from this today and um, not see trouble, but see opportunity.
mm,
Because there is, I love to tell stories all of the time about churches that
mhm.
do not have young families, that do not have any children attending, or any
We have
youth.
lots of those.
Yet we have a
Life
lot of
existing.
those. But you know what? They are doing powerful ministry. they are doing powerful ministry as seniors. And you know, a vital church can remain and even grow with an older generation. You know, some of this works and some of this communication does not necessarily have to be done or you know, created by young people, because, you know,
I agree. I have a lot of young people. I do
good.
I have lots of, I mean, I baptized a baby son. I have lots of young people. But what I was saying, what I was trying to tell you, whatever I take from here, I get from here, I can take somewhere else, because I'm not going to be more than likely in this area.
I see.
I will not be here.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If you get a new appointment, when you get a new appointment, let me know and I will help you get a mission insight report for that new area.
Okay.
Okay. Because there's no limit. Everybody raise your hand if you were able to get a mission insight report. Okay. Good deal. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen and let's go through the Mission Insight Report, because it is very daunting. And I hope that you got an executive summary. And I know it's like 20 something pages long for some churches, and depending on what your radius was. Now, radius and here's how I usually work the radius if you ever decide to run another report. For larger towns or cities like Little Rock or Rogers or Fayetteville, or maybe like Pine Bluff, Texarkana, I usually tend to make the radius that I search for a little bit smaller, like maybe a 3-mile radius. But in more rural churches, I'm going to put it on like a 7.5-mile radius, or maybe even a 10-mile radius. If you didn't do that, that's okay. And we're talking about geographic locations, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's see. Just a moment. I'm having trouble seeing, so hang on just a sec. Share screen. There it is, bright green. Amy, you should know this by now. Let's see. Why is this? Okay. Still not working. Okay, hang on. Y'all, I am so sorry. This new laptop is not allowing me to share. Okay, I am so sorry. Can we just look together at I sincerely apologize. Let me look down here just a second. Advanced sharing. Michael, that would be great. Thank you so much. Michael McMurray is here with Pulaski Heights, and he is going to share his. I got a new or a refurbished laptop. You know, in the conference, when we get new things, it's actually a refurbished thing, and it went back to factory settings, and obviously I don't have mine set correctly. So thank you very much for sharing, Michael.
All right, give me 1 second. It is, I've got to find it here. It's on my laptop. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you about mine. Mine is from Leslie United Methodist Church. That is just north of Clinton, north central in the state. And they have a population of 400 and something. I think it's 412. And they actually have a projected growth for Leslie to jump up in 20 years to 438. So that's their projected growth. So and that is very common for a lot of our United Methodist churches. And so anyway, if you'll just get your executive report pulled up, or if you've got it printed, we can do that too. Great. Thank you, Michael. Okay. So this is for Pulaski Heights. Now, y'all, everybody, don't revolt. We know. Pulaski Heights is one of our largest churches. Little Rock is the largest city in the state. So their numbers are going to look very, very different from yours. But I want you to keep in mind, my little Leslie UMC. And I'm gonna kind of go back and forth with that and share you some numbers there. So what you see when you start out with your report, if you'll scroll down, Michael, the study area, what he has done is he pulled a 1.5 mile radius of the church. And that was like what I was saying, is if you which is probably a really good thing. That's very concentrated. I know this church has people who walk to this church, and it's a very neighborhood church, but it also reaches people, as far as in person, it reaches people all across Little Rock and all across Pulaski County too. But okay, let's go ahead and scoot down a little bit. Let's go to the next page. There we go. Let's look at the data. So if you'll pull that up just a little bit. There we go. So I can see the numbers. There we go. And the data chart. Okay. So what we're looking at, which all of us are going, no math, no. But what we're looking at is at the top, the population change. And what we see is we see progression of, but in 2028, we actually see a dip in the numbers of 44 people. And then in 2033, we see a population change of 377. So really and truly, the population change in Little Rock for this area is very common with some of our more rural areas in Arkansas. Actually, it's not seeing just a huge growth. Now, Reverend Dr. Michelle Morris has joined us, and she is with Bentonville United Methodist Church. And I am sure that her population, as we all know, the population in her area of Northwest Arkansas the population change is going to be huge. But this is actually a really good chart to look at. So what we're looking at is we want to see the number of households that are in this area that Michael chose when he ran this report, and we see it hanging at less than 12,000. So the number of families, because what we need to notice is that households and families are different. Okay, households and families are different. So we have it's pretty steady there, the households and their changes. So let's go ahead and look down, go down.
I have a question.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
So what is differentiate? What is the household, and how are you defining families?
So households are residences.
Okay. I got it.
Yes. And so I think what you're going to see is that this area has a lot of single people that live by themselves. Anyway, yes, sir.
George.
Hey, George.
Does that include apartment complexes, or is it just single family households?
Yes. And so let me back up and tell you a little bit about Mission Insight. This is an incredible tool that each annual conference in the United Methodist Church has. This is a company that generates data for our churches to help us be able to project growth and innovation and be able to target audiences and all of those good and know our neighbors. This includes tax reportings. This includes what is the company that reports income and paying bills and your credit history. There's a credit company that contributes to this as well. This is census data. This is, I mean, it is a full report that is like gold. It is like gold for us to be able to truly know our neighbors. So when we say that there are households and population, households do include apartment complexes, they include condominiums, they include retirement villages, they include single family residencies. It includes everything. So this is going to be a very detailed and very full report that I'm going to show you how we can use this to our advantage to be able to know our neighbors better. Okay, let's go ahead and scoot down a little bit more, Michael. All righty. So racial ethnic population trends. So in Little Rock, in this area, this is just a 1.5 mile radius from Pulaski Heights. You see the diversity breakdown, and you see, let's go down a little bit. So it says that the population that it will be falling, you'll see that the white Anglo population will drop, and that the Asian, Black, Hispanic, Latino, Pacific Islander, American Indian, those will ethnicities will do have a little bit of a they're growing just a little bit, but we can't forget that. We can't forget that. And so let's and which one is growing the quickest? It looks like the Asian ethnicity is that population is growing quicker in this area, which really and truly it's only by, it's less than 1%, but if we want to get, it gives us an opportunity to look at it and go, okay, maybe it's time to start meeting some of our Asian neighbors. Maybe we need to look within our church and see, do we already have current Asian members of Asian descent? Would they be able to provide contacts with some of our neighbors and take this opportunity and go with it? Does anyone have any higher ethnicity percentage changes in your reports? Is anyone showing anything like that? Because this is very important. This is a very, very, very important piece of this tool, is that if we are able to see that the projected growth of a particular ethnic group is growing, and that is and say that is a Hispanic Latino group, and it is, we see a consistent rise, well, conversations need to be happening about how our church can know our Hispanic Latino neighbors. How can we get to know them? How can they get to know us? So keep in mind that this is a very, very, very important tool. And if you don't have it right in front of you, and if you don't want to share, that's totally okay. But and I can't see any of you right now. So if you want to speak or share, just do it. Alrighty, let's go down to the next one. Okay, this is age trends. And this is very important too. And like I said earlier, do not let this be daunting to you. Do not, even if your age trend is skyrocketing, that the majority of the people in your community are of an older age, there is still ministry to be done. There is still vital community work that needs to happen. It doesn't matter how old we are. We still need to know Jesus, and we still need to have friends and authentic relationships. And why wouldn't we as a church want to be friends with our neighbors who don't have a church home, who are older adults? I mean, why wouldn't we? Okay. So for Pulaski Heights, we've got here that the age trend is in the study area in this 1.5 mile radius. The age trend for Pulaski Heights, you'll see is growing, is growing to be, let's see, the average age is growing to be a little over 41 in 2033. So it's still a pretty, I would say right now, Michael, would you say that y'all are pretty heavy? Is that millennial? Is that a millennial group? Millennial age group?
Yeah, so it'd be millennials. I think with the fact that you've got the hospital and the rising housing prices around our neighborhood, that you're seeing a lot more families that stay in this neighborhood, buy a house, kind of that's a house they grow old in.
Gotcha.
And a lot fewer rent houses as well than we've had previously in our neighborhood.
Okay. I want to jump back to, and I'm sorry I can't share my screen, but I want to jump back to my Mission Insight Executive Report for Leslie United Methodist Church in Leslie, Arkansas. Now, their age trend is currently, let's see, in 2000, their average age was 37. In 2022, their average age is 40. And then in 2032, the average age is almost 41. So when we look at this small town of, when we look at this small trend, stand by for just a moment. Dr. Morris is trying to get in. And I'm sorry, with one eye, I can't do as many things as I used to could do. I can't multitask. Forgive me. But what we see in Leslie is that the age trend is also still remaining millennial age, and that we see that the state average is 43, right around 43 is the state average age. But Leslie, our little bitty church in our little bitty town, is okay, I apologize. That was Michelle Moore that was joining us. I'm sorry. I thought that was Michelle Morris. The state age range is Michelle Moore. Can you do me a favor? Can you please send this Zoom link to Reverend Morris?
Yeah,
I cannot multitask. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I got it.
I'm usually really good at multitasking, and today I'm not. I'm sorry.
I got it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so let me get back to let's look at, so with the age trend, what this tells us is we need to look closely at what is our age trend in our church, in the building. What is the age trend? And does this match the community that we are in, or this radius? And for a lot of us, it is not. It is not going to match what for most of our Arkansas United Methodist churches, the age trend within the building membership of the churches is going to be, the average age is going to be in the 60s. And you'll see that in a lot of our areas, the average age is it's closer to 40. So that also gives us some very valuable information that, and it's an indicator that, well, number one, we have work to do. And I'm not just saying that we need to, have a pumpkin festival or, and invite all the families, but that we just need to try to know our neighbors. We need to try and know our folks who are the majority of our communities, that average age folk who are living in our communities. Does anyone have any questions thus far, or want to argue on any of this, or you see any roadblocks? I would love to hear from you.
I have a question or just a comment, actually, even though it seems to be that the churches are within the older population. I would say, just from even looking at this, it looks like it's remaining steady. Mine looks like it, yours looks like it, and that's coming up a little bit to 41. But I
Right.
don't know if that, maybe Arkansas, but I don't know if that is actually the case overall throughout maybe our region, our state, because more older people are, for whatever reason, people are dying every day as well, and different things like that. In my particular church, it's an old church, First United Methodist here in McGee. It is an old church with a lot of them, but I have my average is about, I don't know, closer to 40, 45.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That your age trend within your church setting right now in McGee is more aligned with your community, age group. I mean, that ultimately, that's what we want. That is our goal.
I guess I'm trying to get a question out here somewhere. That I said all that to say this, though, even so, even with that, though, the numbers may be one way, like 45, but how do I want to say this? The power, the politics, who's doing things may be on the other end. They may, that have held certain positions and certain things like that all the time. So that, how does that come into play? I guess that's what I want to know.
Are you wanting to know the accuracy of the data that we're looking at? Is that what?
No, not the accuracy, but and it could be accurate, but what you're going to be able to do based on it may depend upon some other variables, some other things as well.
Michelle, I was just wondering, I would say the average age in our church, Lakeside in Pine Bluff, is probably mid to high 60s, but this report is based on a 1.5 mile radius, and probably the majority of our members, attendees, live 2 to 3 to 5 miles from the church. So I'm not sure that these numbers actively reflect the numbers in our church. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And George, I think you have touched upon an interesting point. No matter where we set that radius for, it can be set for a mile, 1.5 miles, 2.5, you can set it for 5 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles even. No matter what you set that radius for, we still need to try to be, or no, I mean, not be, but we need to know our neighbors. And whether it is 1.5 miles away or 10 miles away, we still need to be able to know our community and be aware of the people who are in our neighborhood. I mean, like truly like within like 8 blocks away, of us. But then we also need to know like the demographics, the geographical data of the whole community of Pine Bluff. Just because if we don't know that, and when I say that our goal should be to have the inside of our church reflect the outside of our community, to reflect our neighbors, that should be our goal. That's a hefty goal. That's a hefty goal. And
I,
go
yeah,
ahead.
I agree with you 100% on that. My point was just that I'm not going to get all excited because this report shows the age group much less than what it actually is. That's just something to take into consideration.
Absolutely.
Oh, why is our church so old? When it's probably if I did a 20-mile radius, those numbers would change drastically. So, no, I agree with exactly what you're saying. I'm just
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, Michael, can we go to the next section, please? Okay, okay, this breaks down the age trends, and it considers education, in this as well. And, this can also help us create, targeted audiences. Have any of you ever heard of targeted audiences? Okay, great. And this, especially when we are, planning, um, uh, you know, doing event planning, program management, when we are trying to message to particular people, particular messages. This is very important, and it's not to this should not be a negative thing. But again, this is just a tool that helps us to know our neighbors better. If we see that we have an overwhelming, like, let's look at Pulaski Heights right here. Let's see, they don't have just a whole overwhelming any changes. But what they are seeing is an increase in college and career start folks. That third line with the green, that's 3%, that area is growing. Well, we can't ignore that. If there is a particular group of people who are living a mile and a half away from our church, and they are of this same educational group and age group, we don't need to ignore that. If we see that there is, let's see.
And Amy, if I can echo that, so we pulled this data before, and it was one of the things we've looked at when we were trying to figure out where we were going to be, who we were going to be post pandemic. And so because we've realized like we have so many young college age students, a lot of med students, pharmacy students, et cetera. So we've been really ramping up our young adult ministry to give small groups that even if you're only here for 4 years, but we can be your church home for that time that you're here. And so like that's kind of the practical application that we got from this data.
Gotcha. Thank you. I want to share a little bit about the data from my church, Leslie UMC, and I'm gonna since I can't share my screen, apologies again. I'm gonna share with you the data of if you'll scroll down a little bit and look at the school aged children, Michael, that graph. Okay. In Leslie, the high school ages 15 to 17, and remember, they have a population of a little over 400. Okay. Their high school aged children, that population is going to drop minor, just a little bit. The elementary to middle school, which are children ages 10 to 14, that is going to drop a little bit as well. And that's like a 4% drop. But you know what is growing what is trending growth is their early elementary school age children, ages 5 to 9, and that is trending a 6% growth over the next few years. So that is something that they really do not need to ignore. This is you know, this needs to be on their radar, that there are going to be more elementary school children in their neighborhood for the next few years than they have right now. And so that gives them the opportunity to look at meeting parents of these elementary school children and getting to know them, finding out what are their needs. You know, we don't want to just do a program because all of the 60-year-olds in the church thinks this is what children need. We need to meet those parents. We need to get out and meet those parents, and we need to find out what do those parents need for those children. And then we can start praying about and discerning what kind of ministry or what kind of connection that we want to make as a church with these young families and with these children. So this is a great opportunity. And I just wanted to share this with you because we're looking at two different ends of the spectrum of these Mission Insight reports. We are looking at one that is in the metro capital city and one of our largest churches in the state. And then we're looking at one that is in a very rural town of population 400. So, so there is opportunity everywhere. There is opportunity everywhere. Even if you see red, there is still opportunity. Okay. Let me go. All right. So for population, let's scroll down a little bit and look at household income. Okay. So remember we talked about what household and residence, the difference in those, that a residence is an abode. It is a place where someone lives. And a household is a family, is more than one person, living in a home. Okay. And so the household trend, income trend in this area, of course, is crazy. You know, very well off. And the income trend is just continues to grow. Michael, can you make this just a tinge bit bigger for this blind girl? I'm sorry. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. All right. So, what we want to see here is that we want to know, and you know, even if we are at like below poverty level, which a lot of our church communities are going to see the average household income trend at below poverty level, that all of this provides opportunity. Because when you are dealing with a household trend, income trend that is growing and that is over the state average, like what we have here in at Pulaski Heights, you know, that lends opportunity for reaching our targeted age groups with you know, communication and opportunity and connection for managing money, for to paying your taxes, for managing credit card debt, I mean, there's just a slew of opportunity for being able to reach people in different income status groups. And so let me look at my Leslie group here and see where they are on the income status. Okay, much different. The average household income trend in Leslie currently is $33,640. That is going to go up to almost $58,000 in 2027. This is I believe right at the Arkansas income level. I think that's very close to the state average. You know, with this lower income level, what are we going to see when we see people with lower income levels? What are we going to see? Tell me.
Unemployment, maybe?
Unemployed. We're going to see people that need to be employed,
Yeah.
that need help with finding jobs. We're going to see what else?
Food insecurity.
Food insecurity, absolutely. What else?
Transportation.
Transportation, absolutely. Those are three biggies. And I want to make this very clear that I don't want this to be daunting to you, that, oh my gosh, we have so much work to do, or there's no way that we can try to create, we've got 18 people in our church and they're all 75 years old. What can we do about this? Well, there may not be anything that you specifically could do, but you could support a community resource that is already doing this work. This is not just us saying, get busy. That's not it at all. This is just saying there's opportunity, and there's opportunity in all of these numbers. There's opportunity in all of these numbers. So, any questions? Does anybody want to share? Does anybody have anything in between those numbers, or something that you may have a question about?
Like with us here at McGee, we've always participated in the food pantry. Well, we have blessing boxes on our particular site, but the city has a food pantry that gives out twice a week. And so
Right.
the local churches here, at least 7 of them, of which my church is one, have participated in doing that work each month. We rotate the months.
Right.
Go there and distribute the food and make the calculations and keep the records and that kind of thing. So that's
Right.
one way of sharing in the
Sure.
food thing.
Yeah, and this helps when we're, when we have our people first intentional communication. This also helps us know that our church social media, if we've got hungry people in our community, which every single one of us has hungry people in our community, hungry neighbors that their children need books, and there are people with mental health disparities. We need to be following our local resource groups, our agencies that support feeding ministries, the food bank, any of our agencies that support mental health, or local hospitals, or anything. And that is a way of communicating, by being able to, if we see that our local, our Methodist Family Health is going to be doing something in the area, even in our county, or they're doing a toy drive, or whatever. Maybe if we don't have enough people to actually contribute, even if we just share that post, just sharing their post to our church Facebook page, or if you do a video that says, we saw that this is happening. We wanted to make everyone aware that this is going on, and we ask that you contribute, because the children and the families in our community need this help. That is people first. That is focusing on people first. I am going to turn this over to Reverend Dr. Michelle Morris, and we have Michelle Moore and Michelle Morris on
I
today.
know, I was about to say, Amy, you got to get the
I've
names.
got the trifecta. I've got both of the fabulous Michelles. I am going to, we'll look at this report again, and I invite you to look at it and shoot me any questions that you may have. But we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Morris, and she's going to talk about her experience and how she has been able to, at her churches, develop ministry teams, to where she has parishioners who are helping and have very specific tasks in communicating through online ministry. And so that, like what Pastor Ellis said earlier, that he's got his full church support for him, jumping into this work of an intentional online ministry. He has his full leadership team behind him, and his church is praying for him. This is what I said. You couldn't have introduced Dr. Morris any better. So I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, and I am going to leave to head to a doctor's appointment, and they're going to get you taken care of. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
I will see y'all.
So it's wonderful to see you all, and grateful for your involvement in this, and I hope that you're finding it to be useful. I'm going to talk a little bit basically about how I get people to volunteer, and how I know where kind of what direction our ministries are going to take. I drive basically, I want you to understand two pieces of my theology as a pastor. One is that anything that God intends us to do, we already have everything we need. God doesn't set us up for failure. Now, we are also United Methodists who believe that people have free will, and people can choose whether or not they bring forth what we need to get done, right? So therein lies the tension. The other thing that I will share from experience, actually, before I ever went into ministry, I'm going to share a brief story. The church that I was part of was a new church start, and we decided to do a church-wide spiritual gifts test. We were using a test that actually tested for 35 gifts, and we had about 50 people that were worshiping there. And so I thought, okay, there's no way we're going to have all 35 gifts represented because there's only 50 people here. And so we're going to, we'll probably have maybe, 10, 15 of the gifts represented. No, all 35 gifts were represented as a first or second strength of the congregation. Every single one of them. I was blown away. But the other thing that I noticed was that almost down to every single person, we were all serving in the wrong ministry. And I went to the church leadership. I was on church leadership, but I shared with them this fact. And I said, we need to restructure the entire church because no one's serving in the way that they're gifted to serve. That would have taken a lot of effort and bravery and a whole new way of conceiving of our church. And the leadership opted not to do it. And we closed within 2 years. I think that we missed a beautiful opportunity to see that the Holy Spirit had empowered us to do everything we needed to do, and we didn't step into that vision. It changed how I approach volunteerism in church. What we were doing at that church was, as new people would join us, they would come in the door and we would say, oh, you're a new warm body. We need someone to work in our nursery. So we're going to put you in the nursery. And people who wanted to be involved in a new church, that's why they were coming in the door, would just say, okay, but they were not necessarily called to be in the nursery. We had some people called to be in the nursery. They weren't working in the nursery. We were filling people into slots without any kind of intentionality. We were also assuming that we needed certain slots when we don't necessarily. So to kind of tell you how I've changed in this, I do serve First United Methodist Church in Bentonville. We are a pretty large church. But for the first 2 years I was here, we went without a nursery in our 9 o'clock service, which people were like, what are you doing? And I said, we do not have the people willing to volunteer. So we're going to just tell people who have small children, bring your kids in here, let them run around. It's a safe space. We will take care of them. They are welcome here. We don't yet have a nursery. When people would come to me and say, we need a nursery at 9 o'clock, I would say, are you willing to volunteer? No. Okay, then we don't need a nursery at 9 o'clock. As soon as I have the people who feel passionate about it, we'll add it. Until then, we will feel what it's like to be without it. So I want to encourage you, whatever context you're coming from, to not necessarily assume that you need X, Y, and Z, but to look at who your people are and to look at your ministry field. And I think that's why it's great that was led in by Mission Insight, because we use Mission Insight a lot to look at and understand the context in which we sit, and what we are wasting time on. For instance, we used to spend a lot of energy on social media. We used Mission Insight to look at our demographic data and found out that, with one exception, the top 8 populations that we have in our zip code do not get their information primarily from social media. We have a very tech savvy part of the world. People are tired of social media. They don't go there for their information anymore. They look at text, email, and podcasts. So we shifted our communication strategy away from focusing too heavily on social media. We still are engaged in social media, but we spend a lot of our energy elsewhere. And so understanding your mission field, understanding the people around you, and that can really help you not waste time on things that are not going to bear fruit just because you think, oh, we need a social media plan. Let's put this in place. Well, do you need a social media plan? And how active does it need to be? Look around at where you're actually seeing connection with people and where you're actually drawing people in, and when and how. And then understand your people. Actually, the smaller the church it is, the easier that what I'm about to share with you all, the easier that it is, just because you can kind of get this process done. I'm still trying to get through all the people that have been here since I've been here. But I sit down with as many people in my congregation, and I do this. I mean, my staff is empowered to do it. They are welcome to, and when they do it, they come in and share what the results are. But I see primarily my position as the one that empowers. I help understand and cast and lead the vision, and I empower the people to actually do the vision. So I sit down with as many people as I can, and I ask them 4 questions individually. First question is, when have you most felt like a disciple of Jesus? Or if I have someone who is new to the church, when has your life felt like it had the most purpose? Okay, so ask that. Number 2, what breaks your heart? Number 3, what brings you joy? And number 4, if you could do anything, if there were no limitations, you had all the money, time, power, resources, energy, people that you needed, if you could do anything, what would you do? It was slow going at first. And I used it for two things. One, to understand who this congregation is, because they kept coming in to me and saying, what's your vision for the church? And I was like, if we're looking for my vision, that's not going to take us anywhere. We need to look for God's vision. And I have a piece of God's vision, but so do all of you. So I need to understand who you are to understand what God's vision is. And that's why it was so important to have those conversations. I thought I was going to have 200 conversations to get to that. Turns out I only needed 100, because the answers were so consistent that I could determine who we were as a church and where we needed to head. And that helped me proclaim the passions of this congregation and what their call is, and help lead into that reality. But the other thing that I used it for was to find out who had something beating on their heart, right? And that has borne it. The first year, people, I think, thought I was crazy. But the second year and the third year, right now, it's unleashed. People would come in and say, like, for fairly recently here, I had someone come in and say, I'm really feeling very passionate about doing something to take care of the environment. and I would like to lead a group in doing environmental care. And I said, great. Here are 8 people in the congregation with the same passion. And she contacted those 8 people. They were thrilled, and we now have an environmental care team in our congregation. Now, to focus on tech, how we do this with tech is I listen for people that love video games, that are photographers, that spend a lot of time reading or watching television, because those are people for whom narrative matters, right? And a lot of times with social, when you're creating an online presence, you're looking for people that can tell the story well, even if it's just visually, right? I recently did a sermon where I talked about using 360-degree video for virtual reality, which in my context makes a lot of sense, because I'm sitting in Bentonville, and Bentonville is constantly innovating, right? So if we're not moving at the leading edge of technology, we're dead. So in my context, starting to talk about virtual reality and artificial intelligence is absolutely a necessity. So we had filmed the Holy Land in 360-degree and converted it over to virtual reality experiences, and I was preaching about that. When I did, we had a visiting family who here's Michelle Moore. We had a visiting family who the husband in the family, the father, is a corporate pilot for Walmart. Like, he flies the executives around, and he ends up all over the world, and he loves to film things in 360 degrees. So he told me, he said, I love this. I want to be part of this. And so now he's filmed John Wesley's house for us. So we have a virtual tour of John Wesley's house. He has filmed a virtual tour of our church. So we now on our website have a way for people to come in and tour our church without ever stepping foot. But that came from me knowing who has what passion. And I let my people and their passions and my mission field lead what we do. Instead of thinking we're a church, we should do XYZ, I say, who are we? Well, we should do Q, L, and D. And one of the very first conversations that I had when I got here, I have this weird background. I used to work for Amy. And so I have this weird background now of knowing how to do videography and all that stuff. It's been enormously helpful as a pastor. But when I first got here, one of my people answered the "if you could do anything" question with, I would be a Food Network star. And I said, oh, I can make that happen. And she said, what? And I said, I know how to film a video. I know how to film a television show and edit it and the whole thing. And so, but since like the 3rd month I was here, we have been filming a monthly cooking show that we've done 2 actually game show editions of it. We've been filming a monthly cooking show, and that the aim of the cooking show is how do you bring more people to the table? So each episode focuses on like a different allergy or a different dietary choice or that sort of thing. And for our congregation that has a pretty strong welcome statement and who has communion every week and affirms the openness of the table, it promotes the values of our congregation really, really well, and lets this woman have a passion and get to share that passion on YouTube and Facebook and all of that. And we got chosen to present at Southern Methodist University when they had it was on food and faith. And she actually met a Food Network star and visited with her. I was like, I didn't know I really could make it happen. But anyway, so I encourage you as leaders, as pastors, to spend the time to get to know your people and their passions, and then unleash those passions, empower them to do them. Because I will tell you what, when you come to people and you said, if I just went to Lanita and said, Lanita, hey, how are you? I need you to mow the church property. If I just did that because I'm like, oh, look, Lanita's here, we need someone to mow the church property. Lanita's going to do that maybe once because the pastor asked her to do it, and then just get angry that if she doesn't like mowing, and then just get angry that this was put upon her and feel overly burdened. Versus if I knew that Lanita had a passion for landscaping and loves to garden, and I said, Lanita, I know you have that passion. We need someone to take care of the flower beds at the church. Would you be interested in doing that? Y'all, we had a $15,000 a year landscaping contract. We dropped it entirely because I know who loves to spend time outdoors. I know people who love to mow. I know people who have loved to garden. How many master gardeners we have. Our congregation takes care of our landscaping now. So that is what I encourage you to do. Is it takes a lot of time, especially on the front end, but on the back end, holy moly, y'all. I have people that love being here because they are seen and they're doing things that they love to do, and they get to do it in the name of God. And so we had a just one more little example. We did a thank you for all the people who regularly involved in Sunday morning worship. We had a thank you picnic. Do you know how many people we have? We have a congregation that has about 500 regularly engaged people. They don't all come every Sunday, but we have about 500 regularly engaged people. Do you know how many invitations we had to send out for people who regularly help with worship? 150 invitations. That is huge. And they love it, and they are passionate about it, and people are not feeling put upon to do it. They are feeling appreciated, valued, empowered, and like they're getting to use their real gifts. So as you're trying to figure this out, as you're trying to determine what you do online, let your people lead you as much as you can, because that's going to bear fruit. That's what the Lord really intends us to do, is whatever is on the heart of the people that God has given us. Does that make sense? Any questions? Comments? Thoughts about anything? Yes. Well, Ella, I think Ellis, and it says Ellis and McGate. So let's go with Ellis. Ellis, can you unmute?
When I first started here at Ebenezer, Reverend Sauter was here before I was, and I'm one of those type of people. Just I don't like to sort of wait and I call it beg and ask people to do things. So I'll just jump in and getting it done. And I'm like, oh no, this is going to burn me out because they're just sitting back to see how much I can do. So then the new approach was, okay, now everyone has some gifts and some talents. We all have something we can do. And as you said, age does not matter. And as Amy said, age does not matter, So someone can do an outreach, someone can do finance. You always have the people two counters and all of that. And someone can do what we call ministry in the church, outside the church. And once and I tell them, hey, we're all in it together, and there's something for all of us to do. Don't just try to burn me out. No, we all gonna get burned out together, So it works much better now. They call me the hugger pastor, So when they come in, I give them a hug, and I let them know that they appreciate it, because I do. I like the more y'all do, that takes some of the responsibility off of me, and I can do other things.
Right. Well, and they get to do what they're passionate about. And I will tell you this, and one of the things, this is my third year now doing nominations here. And the first year, the nominations meeting took about 2.5 hours. The second year, the nomination meeting took 1 hour and 15 minutes. The third year, the nomination meeting took 40 minutes, because we knew who was passionate about what, and we could go in and just say, bam, 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 these ones go in. And also, I will tell you, for the first time ever in my ministry, I've not had to replace anyone who just quit off of one of the committees, because now we've built in the people that love doing that committee work and love serving on that committee and having that purpose. And so no one's resigning now. They want to serve their whole 3-year term. It's a huge, huge, huge difference. McGay, whichever, I don't know what your real name is.
McGee, my name is Pastor
McGee, okay.
Hargraves.
Okay.
I'm Edna Hargraves, by the way.
Yes. Okay.
Pastor
Thank
Edna
you.
McGee. I just wanted to comment, not so much a question on your method of doing things, looking at people's gifts. I retired from the the state of Arkansas in 2017, and I'm a human resource professional. So I remember a time when I had to rearrange a whole clerical front reception area for that very reason, because the person with the face that looked like they had been sucking lemons all day was in the front, and the other one who answered the phone like food stamp office was answering the phone. And so we rearranged that, because there were those who loved. Then there's this people person who smiles all the time, loves people that come to the window. They ought to be the one up there. So
Yeah.
you're right, what that person's gift is. And the other person was perfectly content to do stuff with the internal employees, like the case workers. They knew them and they could, but people coming in, class, no. But when I called the phone myself and heard that, I said, oh my God, you know, and so definitely.
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
had to
it
do
makes
that.
a huge difference in
Your
the
strength.
whole atmosphere of your church or your
Your
government
strengths
office,
and
right?
weaknesses come forth, and when you look at that and they flow. I mean, you get tired even when you're in your strength. You get tired, you know, if you're doing it, but you still love it.
Right.
Because this is your strength.
That's right. That's right. Nan, what were you going to say?
Well, we have a couple that is attending. They've come since the church changed. We didn't disaffiliate. We had other issues and people left. But she is an artist, and she has kids art camp in a lot of places. And she had one at First Baptist in Forest City, and she had one here at Brinkley First for 3 weeks this summer. Well, some of the ladies and other people that knew she did it said, well, why don't you do art for us? So the board has approved Paint with Joy. And of course, Joy is just older youth. We're going to be doing it every third Thursday from 1 to 4 of each month. And we have 35 people from the community within and without the church signed up. And I said, do you have room for all of them? And she says, we'll make it work. And I think I have more coming. So this just happened like this.
Right.
Because people knew that the children were doing art, and they're having an art show at the Delta Depot Museum on the 24th in the afternoon. And she enters all these children's art in the county fair, and some of them won first place in grand prize last year. So it's a totally different way of reaching people. And we also have blessing boxes, and she painted them. And if you want to see how gorgeous they are, she included some of our stained glass into her images on our blessing boxes, and you can find them on our Facebook page and on our website.
That's great.
And, so that's a different way to reach people. And we have the same issue that most people with blessing boxes do. You know, they come up and they take it all, or they take it and go sell it on the street corner. But
yeah, but you know what? There are also
taking care of
people that are,
themselves. They're
that's right.
taking
And
care
there
of
are also
themselves.
people,
And
there
that's
are also
okay.
people that are really being helped. When we put our blessing boxes in, we had a situation where we watched a car that regularly pulled up and he did that blessing box. 1 week, we watched them also leave a note And we
Mhm.
went out and looked at the note, and it said, "You have no idea how much this means. I'm one of the few people in our apartment complex that has a car, and I'm
Mhm.
coming here and getting food for 4 families, and
Mhm.
it's keeping us all alive. So thank you so much." So,
Yeah.
never know the story behind people, right?
No, we don't. And
yeah.
we see people on scooters, health scooters,
Yeah.
wheelchair scooters, new cars, old cars, walking, bicycles, and it's all good. It's all good. It's all
Yeah.
good. If they take it all, or if they don't, or if they take it and go sell it up by the freeway, well, that's okay too. That gives them
You're
a
making a
little bit of
way.
income for something else.
Right.
We have
Well,
one too.
yeah.
And actually, I think that very bare minority that does that. That's what I
Right.
told my people. Yeah, people get stuff, but the main thing is we're doing good. Yeah,
That's
it's going
right.
to always be a bad apple somewhere.
Right.
I don't even think about that because the
I
majority of people do right.
Right. One of my favorite moments when I was in Fort Smith and we first put blessing boxes in, I went out one day and there was a cherry Pepsi in there.
Mhm.
And we were just down the street from a convenience store. And I thought, I bet this person accidentally bought a cherry Pepsi, meant to buy a regular Pepsi, accidentally bought a cherry Pepsi, and then said, well, I'm just going to put it in here. I was like, somebody's
Right.
getting a cherry Pepsi today. But anyway, yeah. Well, thank you all so much. I hope this has been helpful. I am at First United Methodist Church in Bentonville. I am Michelle Morris. Not Michelle Moore. I love Michelle Moore. She is very, very dear to me, but we get mixed up all the time. So if you want to have more conversation about this, or have any questions, want to kind of see a little bit more detail of how this is all working for us, I'm happy to do so. I also am fairly well trained in tech now because of the last few years, and can be a sounding board for some things. And then I will also say I'm the author of Gospel Discipleship, which is a book that does help people understand how they understand discipleship in using the 4 Gospels as that model. And my feeling on gospel discipleship, because y'all, that came to be when I was working in the conference offices. So I feel like all the Methodist churches in Arkansas helped pay for that program already. So I do gospel discipleship training for Arkansas United Methodist churches for free. Sometimes I have to do it via Zoom just because of the reality of being all the way up here in Bentonville. And I do have, my first priority is serving this church. But if we can work something out and you want to do that kind of training, then I'm happy to do that for y'all. So just let me know that. Can I pray a blessing on us, and then we can go for the day. So let's pray. Lord, thank you so much for the folks that are gathered here with the hearts of seeking people in new ways. Give them the vision, give them the clarity, help them to know and to see how your voice needs to be shared in the community in which they are planted. Also help reveal the gifts that are already given, and help them take the steps that need to be taken to unleash those gifts and to help people feel that fulfillment of serving in a way that they are called to serve. May we all be blessed as we go forth from this place, and may we be a blessing to all those we encounter. We ask all these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.